Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have joining me King's X guitarist Ty Tabor. Ty will talk all about his new solo album, Shades, coming out on March 4th. Ty will also give us some insight on when we could expect a new King's X album. I think the information is going to really excite that fan base, no doubt about it. Ty will also share with us a really funny story about Gene Simmons and how King's X helped save the day on one of the Kiss cruises. Lots of great information in this episode, lots of fun talking with Ty, so let's jump in and let's get started. Well, Ty, first off, I just want to congratulate you. Your new solo album's coming out Friday, about a day or so from now. This is your 11th, 12th solo album. You got a whole bunch of King's X releases. Do you still feel that excitement on release day that's coming up on Friday?
I don't know if it's excitement or more like anxiousness.
Sure.
I always am kind of nervous about it when something like that's happening and there's a lot of attention. That's when I am most uncomfortable. So I'm usually just hoping that I get through it unscathed and people don't hate it. You know?
Well, I can tell you, I've heard it in advance and I don't think anybody's going to hate it. And, even the first response to the single, Sister Genocide, right? The response, the fan response has been overwhelming. You see people online all talking about it's that classic Ty tone, that sound that you're so known for. When you wrote that song, did you think, hey, this is the first single, or, what do you remember writing that song?
Truth is, I don't even remember writing that song.
Okay, that's great.
It basically, I wrote like probably 5 or 6 songs all at once. So I kind of remember the whole group of songs more than any individual. But yeah, I wrote a bunch in a row before we went in to start working on the new King's X. And that was one of the ones I wrote right before we went in.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, one of the things I love about the album is sometimes you get the unexpected, I'm going to say, right? So the song Insane, you get this catchy rock tune that starts off and then about a minute and a half, halfway through the song, it does this like 180 on you. And all of a sudden there's this whole other vibe to the song, which I think is kind of like one of the really cool things about the album.
Oh, thank you. That was very much what I wanted to do on a lot of it. I wanted to have a few surprises. So thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
For me also, I listened to the music, I listened to the lyrics. I know you lost your father. I'll just pause there for a moment and say my condolences. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
The song Best Day in a While. I don't know if you wrote about your father. I have to assume you did. But lyrically, when I'm listening to it, I'm like, wow, what an incredible song. Just even lyrically, forget music, which is great in and of itself. But lyrically, man, that song just grabbed me so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was definitely written about my dad for sure.
And
it's all true.
I was going to ask you, did it pull off? Yeah.
And I got to spend a good bit of time with him before he passed. And so these, the things in the verses and everything are referring to real things that happened and everything. So yeah, very true song. And I got to have some great time with him.
Well, that I'm glad you were able to have that at the end. And I'll say, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when you were younger, you used to perform with your dad, right, as well?
Sure did. We played some bluegrass festivals. Our favorite one was one in Mississippi called the Monticello Bluegrass Festival, and we would play there. On a bill with people like Grandpa Jones or Minnie Pearl or Lester Flatt, or all of the legends from that era, the early original bluegrass explosion. And we got to open for pretty much everybody. And it was a big experience to get out there and play in front of people, because that was, I guess that's probably the first time I ever got on a stage in front of that many people. Was at a bluegrass festival, most likely.
Right. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, I have to assume, I know a lot of people say when they go into music, their parents are not sure, whatever. Was your dad very supportive when you said, hey, I want to be a guitar player in a rock band one day?
Well, I'll put it this way. My dad bought me a Martin D18 in 1975, and then a Les Paul Custom in 76 to be able to have some good weapons for doing exactly this. So he was very supportive. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Like I said, it comes through in that song, and it gives me chills when I listen to that song. So
thank you. A lot of people mention that one. I'm really glad to hear that. I was almost afraid to put that one on the record, so I'm glad you like it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, another song that kind of jumped out at me when I first saw the title, and it's a bonus track, is the song Political Nonsense. And God knows there's been a lot of political nonsense on all sides for the last few years. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting to listen to this. And what I loved about it is it's certainly not an instrumental, but the lyrics are so few. You're just like, no political nonsense. I won't listen, period. That's it. And I was like, wow, that's actually even more powerful than having all of these words and taking sides and pointing fingers. You're just like, I'm not listening. No political nonsense. I'm like, this is genius. I love it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was exactly the intent, just to cut to the chase. No need to add anything else to it.
Yep. No, very, to me, it was even more powerful, that type of message, just going right to the point. So I think that was great. I don't know for you, what's your favorite song on the album? For me, I love the song What You're Thinking. It's just such a feel good, happy song. Do you have a favorite on the album?
Not really.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I was very hesitant about releasing this record. At one point, I actually thought maybe I would just not release it, and I would release some other songs, like newer songs. And because I was writing most of this stuff like back in 2019.
Okay.
And well, actually, I wrote a lot of it in 2020 during COVID, when everything shut down. I wrote about at least half the album at that point. But anyway, I thought about, because I had like 5 or 6 new ideas coming up that I felt real strong about. And I was a little bit insecure about whether this album was good or not, because of just all the emotional stuff I was feeling during that time. And, and you don't have a good judgment of yourself when you're going through stuff like that. So I was afraid to put it out at one point, and even thought maybe I just won't, and I'll give Joe some other songs and we'll let that be Shades. And almost went that route. But Doug got a hold of some of the songs, and he let me know how much he liked them. And that actually was the biggest encouragement for me to just say, okay, let's just put it out.
I find that amazing, because you listen to it and there's really not a weak song on the album. So, but like, you said, sometimes you're too close to it. And I have an expression I say sometimes to my friends: when you're too close to the mirror, you can't see your own reflection. Right. So it sounds like some of these songs were maybe a little bit deeply personal to you, and you just wasn't sure.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know if I should put it out.
Right. Now, was some of these song ideas that you had stuff that was laying around for a few years? I know you said some of this you wrote during the pandemic. Is some of the songs like even going back longer than that?
Let me think about it. I know that I did pull up some older songs and try to make them come together, but the ones I'm thinking of right now didn't make the cut. So let me think. Yes, Shallow.
Okay.
Is something musically I wrote maybe about 5 years ago, but didn't have lyrics, just didn't have it fully formed in my brain yet.
Sure.
So I went ahead and finished that one off. It was older. In general, now that you mention it, I'm not really thinking of anything that's that old. Most of it is newer.
Nice. Was it harder for you, or was it the same, like recording and writing an album during a pandemic?
Oh, it was just like normal life for me, because I work alone in this studio most of the time. There's every once in a while my friend Spike comes in and helps me out with stuff, but usually I'm just here alone. and that's my normal day, COVID or not. So
Okay.
I would come here every day. It was normal life every day still. The only thing that changed for me was going to the grocery store, basically.
Okay. All right. So when you're writing songs for a solo album compared to a King's X album, and I know you said you're working on one, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but is there a different approach that you have for a solo album compared to a King's X, or is it just, hey, I'm going to write the best song that comes to mind, and where it lands, it lands?
That's kind of how I go about all writing. Just you can only write whatever's coming,
Right.
and it doesn't think about King's X or whatever. It's just either you got a song or you don't, and
Right.
you just kind of follow it and try to write it, put it down, not forget it, and then it just lands wherever it lands. If whatever songs are laying around when a project comes up, those are the songs that go to that project for consideration.
Right.
And then some of them get used and some don't, and then you use some of the others for solo.
That makes sense. Now, we mentioned before briefly your guitar tone, which you're very well known for. You're also, to me, a very good singer. When you get a melody in mind and you say, hey, this is the melody I want for a song, does singing, I'll say, come as naturally and easily for you as the guitar playing seems to do?
No. I mean, the voice in my head does.
Okay.
I can hear a great delivering of vocals on a song when I'm writing it. And then I have to put myself in front of a mic and I get the shock of what it actually sounds like. And it has nothing to do with what was in my head. So then, and actually that has sometimes ruined a song so bad for me that it made it not a good song because my voice just wasn't right for the song.
Wow.
In my head, I can hear it, like it's Dio singing, but that's not me when I step up to the mic. So you have to deal with what you've got and whether it's good enough for the music or not sometimes.
Who would you consider influences from a singing point of view, right? You just mentioned Dio, great singer, God rest his soul, but who do you consider influences from a singing side?
I think most of my vocal influence comes from the Beatles and John Lennon solo. Just that's what I grew up singing to. So that was the music of my life growing up, was the Beatles. Mm-hmm. And so that's who I think of when I think of vocals. But of course, there have been vocalists all through the years. Paul Rodgers, if I could have been born with that, man, I'd be laying that vocal stuff down every day, and I wouldn't be able to wait to get to the next song if I had his voice. And there's lots of people. Lou Gramm, is another one of those voices. Yep. There's so many great singers out there that's why I've never called myself a singer. I'm not a singer compared to any of the real guys. I'm just a guy who plays guitar who has to sing.
Okay, interesting. Now you're saying you're a guy who plays guitar, has to sing. I was very surprised going back a little bit. I was reading some of your guitar influences, and a lot of them didn't surprise me. But then one jumped off the page of me, and I'm a fan, right? I'll admit that. But you said you were influenced by Ace Frehley, and I said, "Whoa, all right, that's not expected because Ace is a sloppy Jimmy Page type of player. Your tone, your style is a bit different to me. How do you get influenced by Ace Frehley? Because I didn't make that connection."
Well, the thing about Ace that to me made him genius is that he played vocal melodies almost. Mm-hmm. You sing his solos. You go with the vibrato, the expression, the everything, and like the song "Shocked Me." That solo is one of the best solos ever to me, just because it's all the right notes at the right time and it's hummable, and you want to hear it again. That's what his genius is to me: is great style with great melody. The solos were. For me, I couldn't wait for the solo in a Kiss song almost more than enjoying the song itself. I couldn't wait to see what he did.
Interesting. And I agree with you. To me, a great solo is one that you can sing along with. And you've got plenty of those yourself as well, right? So now I can see that connection because I'm like, wow, the style of playing seems very different. But looking at it with that lens, I totally understand what you're saying. It's kind of funny to me, keeping with Kiss for a moment there. Growing up in the 80s as a Kiss fan, I remember the first time King's X came on my radar was the late Kiss drummer Eric Carr used to plug you guys in every single interview. This is like 88, 89, before you guys really, took off a little bit. And he was like, oh, you got to listen to Metallica and King's X. And at the time I was like, I know who Metallica is, but who's this King's X band that he's talking about? Were you aware that he was constantly kind of championing you guys' cause from pretty much day one?
I became aware of it. Me and him became friends, and talked to him many, many times on the phone. And he came to shows, and we hung out and had some great experiences with him. So it was always an honor to me that he was out there pushing us. And yes, we were aware of it. We were very thankful and got to tell him in person many times. Oh,
that's awesome. Again, that's how I found out about King's X first as well. Ironically, the last time right now that I've seen King's X perform was in 2016 or 17, the year escapes me, but on the Kiss Cruise. So talk about kind of coming full circle for me as a fan. So do you remember being on the Kiss Cruise, and do you have any stories that you could share about that?
Oh, it was great. And I've had the privilege of getting to speak to Gene Simmons a few times, a couple times on the phone. And we talked for hours one time about everything on earth. And it was amazing because I about halfway through, I was realizing I'm on the phone with Gene Simmons and we're talking about, stuff. It was pretty stinking awesome. So out on the cruise, had another really great conversation with Gene. All of us did, all three of us in King's X. We sat around with him one day, just talking about, I wish I could tell you everything we talked about. It was some funny stuff and some not funny stuff, but but it was awesome. It was hilarious. And we had a blast on that cruise.
That's awesome. And you guys have also done like the Monsters of Rock cruise. Cruises right now, rock cruises were big business before the pandemic. And, I've been on some of those. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I got to tell you one more thing about that Kiss cruise.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is some trivia people don't know.
Hit me with this. Hit me with this. Good.
Basically, Gene's outfit had these like rings on it somewhere.
Okay.
And something happened where they got ripped off of his outfit or something and couldn't be fixed. So one of the crew showed him that King's X was selling these bottle openers that had this round or open end that could be used.
Right.
And would shine and nobody would even know. And so they bought all of them and fixed his outfits. And he did shows with King's X openers on that Kiss cruise. And nobody even knew it.
I'm going to have to go back now and look at my pictures from that cruise because I was on there. And I took tons of pictures of all the bands, right? So I'm going to now go back and say, that's the Gene Simmons outfit with the King's X bottle openers on it. That's
somewhere on him because they literally bought every one of them.
What do you know? Was this for his makeup costume or just when they were doing the acoustic?
I'm sure it's probably for the makeup thing where they're really doing it up. Yeah.
Oh, now I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to be checking my photos, but I never heard that story before. That's great. That's great. So, we're talking King's X. You mentioned before that you guys are working on an album. What's the status of that?
It's turned in and finished. Artwork's done. Everything's done, mastered. And I think here very soon, the record company is going to finally make an announcement. All of the engines will start to roll.
That's awesome. I think the last album for King's X, if I'm not mistaken, was like 2008 or it's been a while, right? So
really long time.
The longest period for you guys between albums, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been, by the time this one comes out, it will have been 14 or 15 years almost, I guess.
Amazing. What could the fans expect from that album?
It's hard to tell. Can you imagine telling somebody what a steak tastes like if they never had one?
Okay, good. Yep.
I don't know how to tell people about it. All I know is I hope they like it. I know that we put our souls into it. We worked harder on this music than anything we've done in a very long time. And when I pull it up now, usually, because we've had the album done for a little while, usually by this point, I can't stand to hear another note of whatever album. It's just like I am over it and do not want to hear another note. I can put this one on and still really enjoy it all the way to the end. And that's unusual for me. So all I know is that we worked, like I said, harder than we have in years since we were young. And I'm proud of it. I hope people like it.
Well, I'm sure that'll get the fans excited. And I can say it this way. If it's half as good as the solo album you're putting out on Friday, fans will be excited. Absolutely. So I'll say it that way.
I think it'll blow that away. We'll see.
Okay, very cool. Now, unfortunate news a couple of weeks ago, Jonny Z, Megaforce founder, passed away. What did he mean for you guys in the early part of your career?
Everything. I mean, him and Marsha both, because we don't really think of Jonny without Marsha. It's, they were both. They were like one entity almost.
Sure.
And Marsha was most responsible for us getting signed. She is the one that convinced Jonny to take the chance. But once Jonny was convinced, he was all on board and was amazing. We had some great times with both of them. Gonna miss them forever.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I saw them was in Florida. We played down there somewhere and they came out, and it was so good to see them again. And but yeah, without them, there is no King's X in the world.
Right. Amazing.
And I mean literally, because we were turned down by every single label that we knew of, and we didn't know about Megaforce. A friend of Doug, hipped him to Megaforce. So we sent one last thing out, and it was the last thing we sent. And
wow.
It was Megaforce and Marsha that saved us.
That's amazing. And, you could probably say the same thing with Metallica, right? I mean, he was responsible for bringing Metallica into the fold. He obviously meant a lot to our scene and our music in the 80s. So,
well, absolutely. He's a legend. Both of them are.
Well said. Absolutely well said. Now, to me, one of the things as we've progressed into the 2000s that I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of, is so many people stream music, maybe sample songs here and there, and you kind of lose that feeling. Again, I think back to the 80s, sitting on my rug as a kid, album in hand, looking at the album cover, kind of getting excited, looking at the lyric sheet inside, and you really lose that to me. Does it bother you when people maybe stream your music instead of having a physical product?
It doesn't bother me that they're streaming it. I'm happy that they want to hear it. What bothers me is that the streaming services are making so much money off of other people's work and not paying us. And
Absolutely.
That's just the truth. I don't
Absolutely.
get jack for streams. I get
Yep.
nothing.
Yep. When I spoke to Dee Snider a few months ago, he's literally almost word for word said the exact same things that you just said right now. So
they're just taking advantage of art and stealing it from us, the streamers,
yeah,
and not paying us.
Yep, I agree, which is why I always tell my listeners, go ahead and stream it if you want, but go buy that physical product also. And yours is available on cassette, it's available on CD, it's available on album, right? It's pretty much available any way you want it. So
It's even available as a cassette.
Which is amazing, right? Oh, man.
The only thing we don't have is an 8-track.
And hey, never say never, right? Who knows what's around the corner. How do you listen to your music these days?
Mostly, I don't really listen to a lot of music.
Interesting.
I listen mostly to talk radio and podcasts. I don't listen to much music. I think that really about the only times I listen to music are when at night, when me and my lady are sitting around having some wine or whatever and just playing YouTube videos and whoever it is we want to listen to. So here I am streaming, doing exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm laughing because I just did that 2 nights ago on YouTube, on the TV, going through all these different videos.
But what I do is I do purchase anything I like. I do that because I know what it means.
Same.
And plus the people who are getting millions of streams, they're getting some money.
Right, of course.
They're getting some decent money. It's just everybody else gets nothing.
Right. So we were talking before about holding an album and having the album in your hands, and your album cover to me is it's eye-catching to me, like it's colorful and the title shades. What does the title shades mean to you and the album cover?
Well, when I was thinking of shades, all I was thinking of is covering a whole lot of different sides of life. The good, the bad, the ugly, the happy, the sad.
That's exactly what I took from the cover. And again, listening to the album and the lyrics, that was my interpretation, but I wasn't sure if that was your interpretation as well. We were talking before about the people who influenced you, and King's X now has influenced a whole generation of bands, and especially in the 90s, whether it's Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, they've all cited King's X as an influence. How does that make you feel when you think back to your childhood playing with your dad in some of these bands, and now you're influencing a whole generation of other artists that are huge in the 90s?
It's hard to put into words. I tell people that my most prized possession in my home, other than my original Stratty lead that's on all the early King's X music, my most prized possession is a Frampton Comes Alive cover signed by Peter Frampton to me that says, "Hi, Ty, big fan of yours too, Peter Frampton."
Wow.
And he in the old days would come see us. I met him a long time ago. We were doing the Ritz in New York City, and some of the members of Guns N' Roses and Frampton were in the dressing room waiting on us when we came off stage. It was crazy. I couldn't believe they were there. And there were other people too. I'm sorry for the others I'm forgetting, but a whole lot of, the who's who come out in New York.
Right, of course.
So, but anyway, just the fact that Frampton came out, that kind of thing, because he was such a huge guitar hero to me in the 70s. Just, I learned every note of that, Frampton Comes Alive album. And that's the only album I ever learned to play. I'd never, ever tried to play other people's music. I never really cared to play other people's music. But for some reason, that album, I had a friend who played bass, and we both just would get together and jam the record. So I learned it.
Right. Well, it's a great classic album to learn.
No kidding. So to have that album signed by him, and I mean, never mind the fact that he even knows I'm alive at all, but to say big fan of yours too.
Right.
I mean, that's a dream come true. So all of that is like that to me. You have to pinch me every time we talk about that stuff.
That's an amazing story. Great story. One of the things to me, I see all of these different artists that have pointed to King's X as influences, loved your music. And I would have thought with that kind of backing and support from fans that you guys would have reached like the Guns N' Roses level of popularity, right? Which not many bands do, but you've been such a band that so many artists love. Did you ever think, hey, how come we didn't hit that level? Or do you feel like, hey, we accomplished more than 99.999% of the bands out there. I'm cool with that.
I know that in the past, I used to think about that stuff a lot. These days, that stuff doesn't even enter my mind at all. I just feel so lucky that we still do shows all over the world that sell out.
Yep.
And I mean, go figure. I mean, we're old men now. And we still get to do this and people still want to hear it. So I'm just thankful.
And you know what? You survived the hair metal scene, the grunge scene, the boy band scene in the late 90s, the pop scene. Now it's the rap music. And you guys have still survived through all of that.
I guess we may someday get the medal for most stubborn band alive.
But that's a good medal to get. And you guys have the catalog to support that. Like I said before, like 20 some odd albums between yourself solo and the band. It's an incredible catalog. Do you ever wake up one day and say, gee, have I written my best song yet?
I don't consciously think about that, but every time I write something, I want it to be the best song yet. I'm always striving to write that one that you're never going to feel like you wrote. You know what I mean?
Sure.
A lot of the ones that I don't feel as good about are the ones that mean the most to other people. So you just never know what you're doing, what it means, or it's hard to judge if it's a good song. You can only judge whether you like it or not.
Right.
And so I know that I was told that when the guys, made the first Apple computer, they were trying to make it be the experience they wanted, period. And just change things to that. That's the only thing I can think of. Make it to be what you want to hear, and hope for the best.
And I think you've done a great, like I said before, What You're Thinking, Best Thing in a While. There's some great songs on this album. There's no doubt in my mind that your fans are going to pick this up on Friday and say, yeah, Ty delivered. This is good. This stuff is really good.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So for your fans that are interested in getting that physical product, where could they purchase that besides maybe going to Amazon to order an album? But where could they purchase the physical product from you?
All of the different packages are available at Rat Pack Records, which you just ratpackrecords.com, and it's going to be the first thing that comes up. And it comes in all kinds of different bundles and stuff. And of course, it'll be available for download on all of the services, and we do actually get a little bit for that.
Right. Absolutely. And like you said before, you could even get it on cassette. If your old car still has a cassette player in it, you could get that cassette player for that car, right?
Sure can.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd want your fans to know about the album prior to it coming out?
Not really. I just hope that people accept it kind of the way you have accepted it. I really appreciate that you like it. I just hope they will too.
Yeah, based on the feedback I've seen online from the couple of songs you've released, I have no doubt that the fans are going to embrace it, enjoy it, and I think there's some of the best songs the fans haven't even heard yet. So I think they'll be really happy on Friday when they get this.
Thanks, man. I hope so too.
Awesome. Well, yes. Well, thank you, Ty. I appreciate it. Much success with the album. I look forward to the new King's X album coming out. Hopefully, it sounds like soon. It might be right around the corner. I know the fans will be looking for that as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Awesome. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay well. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. Alrighty. There you have it. I'd like to thank Ty for taking some time out talking all about his new solo album, Shades. I really appreciated it, Ty. Thanks so much. And I can tell you, I think all the fans are going to really love the album. Go pick it up. If you're a King's X fan or a Ty fan, you're going to love it. I guarantee it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.